Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I am Ralph Labella.
And I'm Ron Sen. The Boston Celtics made big news last week by hiring a new coach. No, not that new coach. Kara Lawson, who has an extensive resume, including national championship at Tennessee while playing for Pat Summitt, a WNBA championship and Olympic gold medal, was named an assistant coach. Now, looking online, I couldn't find much of a paper trail as far as clinics or what her philosophy of basketball is, but it should be pretty interesting to see what impact she has and in what role she's going to perform as a Celtics assistant.
Yeah, she does all the big games, all the big college games and pro games.
As an analyst.
As an analyst, very knowledgeable, very, very nice person, but she understands the game. I mean, you listen to her, again, she's very knowledgeable. And if they were going to pick any female up, she's the perfect one.
Well, and certainly she's in a throwback that she played for Summitt, and Summitt is as hard a coach as you're going to find. If you want to look at the Tom Izzos of the world or the Bobby Knights, she was the female version of that. She did not take it easy on players. We talked before about the four corners, and the four corners to Summitt meant that was one game night that the players stayed out too late drinking, so she called an early practice and put trash cans at each end of the corners of the court and had the players run until they were thrown up in all the buckets. So that's who Summitt was. And the Celtics certainly need a lot of discipline, and there's going to be changes this year.
So she's very, very smart, well-spoken, and when she speaks, I mean, she doesn't hesitate. I mean, when she explains something, she just goes right through it. She gets your attention. I met her at the UConn game a couple of years ago and talked to her for maybe 10 seconds. Very, very respectful. She was doing a game that day. I think they were playing, I think it was a Notre Dame game. And very, very nice person, but she's really knowledgeable. I mean, she's going to be a super plus for the Celtics.
Well, we'll spend a lot of time talking about the Celtics and the NBA. In sad news today, Angels left-handed pitcher Tyler Skaggs was found dead, and nobody seems to know what happened. There's no particular point in speculating, but he had pitched effectively for the Angels this year. He has 7 wins and ERA in the low 4s. It's just sad when a young person has a tragedy overtake them, and we'll find out what happened.
Yeah, they're not saying much about it right now.
No. We'll talk about the Red Sox in England, and that was kind of a disaster all around, unless you're a Yankee fan, in which case it was awesome. Angel Hernandez, considered by many the worst umpire in Major League Baseball, now has been booed on two continents, as the fans there recognized Angel right away and gave it to him.
What game did he do?
I think he did the first.
Whoever did the second game was terrible.
He must have done the first game.
Yeah, they were both bad.
I mean, how often do you see a Major League game when both starting pitchers are out in the first inning giving up 6 runs?
Yeah, I was screaming at Tanaka. The Yanks get 6 runs and he gives up 6 runs.
Well, they didn't really have the Fox box up as far as being able to tell what was a strike and not a strike. So it was hard to make much comment about the strike zone. For the Red Sox, it was an unmitigated disaster as the pitching staff gave up 29 runs in two days, and everybody on the staff got to pitch practically. It was a total loss. Mookie Betts got to meet his distant relative, Meghan Markle, the princess. That was probably the highlight of the trip for the Red Sox. And Michael Chavis had a pair of 3-run homers in the opening game, which I guess that was it if you were to cheer if you're a Red Sox fan.
But you know what they were saying about the stadium? They built that for the Olympics. And they built it purposely because it was track and field. And they didn't want any breeze down below. And it's built where there's no wind, there's no breeze, and they're saying it really affected the curveball, the off-speed pitches, and you could tell the pitches that threw the fastball. Rodriguez looked good. He was coming in strong, throwing sliders. But Tanaka's pitch was it was spinning, but it wasn't doing anything. But they said that's a big reason. because they built it for the Olympics.
Well, I don't think we have to worry about another franchise being added in England anyway. Although apparently there's interest in other countries that want to
Yeah.
sponsor the events.
Denmark, is it? In
Germany.
France? Germany?
So they had some fluff pieces about expats and other youth sports baseball interest in England. It didn't, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a big threat to overtake cricket, that's for sure.
But talking about baseball, though, the Yankees, I mean, they're doing really good. I mean, the lineup's great. They're pitching, the starting pitching, you know, especially with Severino out. I mean, they've been terrible. Even Paxton's getting hit now.
Well, the Red Sox haven't been much better. They have one starter beyond the halfway point who's won more than 5 games in Eduardo Rodriguez, who's 8-4. Chris Sale hasn't won a game in Fenway Park since last July. Porcello got hammered, and David Price has been okay recently, but we'll see. And then Evaldi's throwing program hasn't really come along, so I don't know if his elbow is responding to whatever program and treatment that he's under. The Red Sox have 6 pitchers, relief pitchers, who've thrown over 30 games, and I think they're just wearing out the bullpen, the people who are any good. Barnes has been miserable lately, and people are saying his arm is a suspect. Hemsley's on Hembry is on the injured list, and Schwerin got sent back. So you have very few people who are close to reliable. Workman's been pretty decent, and Waldman's been okay up until the last weekend. Brazier's been mostly bad. So overall, the Red Sox are 17-34 in 34 save opportunities. Normally you'd expect a good team to be up around 75% at least. So if you translate that into an explanation, that's the primary reason the Red Sox are so far out behind the Yankees and not even in wild card position right now, as they're behind both Tampa and Texas.
Yeah, one time, I think before last week, the Red Sox relief pitchers blew 16 saves before the Yankee series, and the Yankees relief pitchers blew 12.
Has there been that many?
12, but that doesn't mean they lost the game.
Right.
Because I saw Britton blew 2 last week. He blew 2 games, and the Yankees came back and won both of them. But you can come in the 7th inning and blow a save, and then your team can win the game, or the 8th inning, or 9th. You know, those are different save situations. So, again, the Yankees blew 12 saves, but out of those 12, they probably won 7 of them. 7 or 8 of those games.
Yeah, I don't know how many of the
Red Sox lost a lot, like 14.
Yeah, a lot of them. And if you look at overall production of the lineup, you have Mookie Betts, who won the MVP with a wins above replacement of over 10 last year, which is phenomenal. And again, beyond the halfway point, he's got 2.9. Devers has 2.9. Bogarts is 2.7. Martinez and Benintendi are both less than 2. So, you know, they're really just not getting it done, however you want to look at that. Benintendi, he can barely reach the infield from left field, so I got to think there's something drastically wrong with his arm. Everybody's running on him, and understandably so. Yeah,
they lost the edge. I don't know. I mean, they win the championship last year, and they come out this year. It's almost like they were in, you know, they thought they were invincible early on. But now they're looking at the bullpen and saying, what are we going to do here?
Well, I was pretty shocked that I looked today that if you look at runs scored, the Red Sox are only 13 runs behind the Yankees. But I guess as far as how timely they're scoring the runs, must not be very good since, you know, they're, I think, 5 games over 500 now. It's the old Fortune 500 thing. You have a team that is getting paid a fortune and playing 500 baseball. And Dombrowski's got to be feeling on the hot seat. Now, if you have a budget that you're allowed to spend, and they say, look, you can't spend 1 cent over that additional red line, well, I guess what can you do?
They had the second best ERA about a month ago. The bullpen did in baseball. They were pitching real good. I mean, they were blowing games in the last inning or whatever, but the ERAs were I mean, I think they were the top 2 or 3. You And now, I mean, they're just getting
Yeah.
hammered. They're getting tired.
Yeah, I think they probably hoped that with two days off and then a couple of games that the bullpen could get some rest, but the bullpen got more taxed than usual. I think they sent Taylor and Schwarren back to the minors. I don't know what they were going to replace them with, if anything.
How about the Yankees, right? Both teams had 2 days off before the first game. The Yankees' second game, they don't have a starter. They don't have a starter the second game after 2 days off before that series.
Well, right.
They start Landry, the lefty who's never started before.
Well, it looked like it.
Gives up 3 home runs in the first inning.
And, overall, I mean, things are tough. There's a saying applying to Latin American baseball about you can't walk off the island. That means if you're a player in Venezuela or Dominican Republic, Haiti, Puerto Rico, you got to hit your way off the island. And I wonder what Alex Cora was saying. I can't get off the island fast enough after a trip to the British Isles. Now, the Red Sox have some softer teams to play going forward, so maybe they'll be able to fatten up against the bad teams. But at the end of the day, you've got to beat some of the good teams some of the time. And the Red Sox have played really terribly against decent teams, and that is a bad harbinger of their fortunes this year. It doesn't feel like they have the team this year. And the Yankees and Houston, of course, both very strong.
I think Houston's going to be tough. When they have their whole team, they're going to be tough. And their starting pitching's better than the Yankees starting pitching.
Yeah, if nobody likes to go up against Verlander, who's in position maybe to win another Cy Young award.
He's given up a lot of homers this year. Huh?
Yeah. And then Garrett Cole's another guy who throws really hard. So we'll see. But certainly not looking good. And there are individual players on the Red Sox that have done well. I mean, Bogarts is probably having his best year. He's got 16 homers, I think. And he didn't make the All-Star team, which is fine. He hasn't been great defensively. Actually, particularly in the last week, he hasn't been great defensively. And Vasquez has been really strong.
He's been real good.
I mean, he's got, I think, a 800-ish OPS, and he has 11 home runs, making good contact. He's had a lot of pass balls. I think there's discussion about, you'll see him trying to frame marginal pitches, and some of them are going for pass balls. Devers has been really strong. He's been hurt a little bit with a leg injury, but I mean, he's got the highest average bats velocity ball off the bat. So, I mean, he's been a good player. So they've had some people productive, and Bradley's been really good in the last 3 or 4 weeks, which is normal Bradley. He has periods of the season where he heats up and then he'll go back into his coma.
He's been unreal. But I think the wild card game is going to be the Red Sox in Texas. That's my prediction.
So you think Tampa's going to fade and not
I
make
think
it?
that they're fading now. I think Texas is a better team. I mean, Tampa's got the pitch, and they just brought up another young guy that pitched real good. But I think Texas will beat them out. The Red Sox will come back, and I mean, they've got to start winning, the Red Sox.
Well,
I mean, they have to. I mean, they just have too much talent. You thought they were going to when they won 9 out of 10, and then they go lose 4 out of 6.
Well, we'll see. I mean, so much depends on the starters performing adequately. I mean, Price, I think, has 3 wins. And, I mean, his ERA and walks and hits per inning pitch, so-called WHIP, are both pretty good. But overall, it hasn't been great. And in the National League, the Dodgers are pretty much running away with it. But of course, seems like they've been in the World Series the last few years,
Yeah.
and one of these years they might win it.
I think it's going to be the Dodgers, and I'm hoping the Yankees. Just Severino comes back and he's sharp, and he can match, the Houston pitching. And the Red Sox, you never know. I mean, if Eovaldi comes back and they put him in the bullpen in the playoffs, and you have Price and you have.
What's the outlook for Betances coming back in the near future?
I mean, he's been on the bench, so you haven't heard much about that.
But
they get him back. And
right. If you have Betances, Ottavino, Chapman, and Britton, you've got 4 high quality relief pitchers. So if you get the game into the 6th inning with a lead or or tied.
And Green's been starting and pitching the first 2 innings. He's been their 5th starter. They only pitch him 2 innings. They do that thing what Tampa started.
Right.
You know, Green's tremendous. 98-mile-an-hour fastball. He struck out 1 start about 3 weeks ago. He pitched 2 innings, struck out 6 batters. Struck out all 6 batters.
Well, the Yankees are doing it, and they're not doing it with mirrors. They're hitting the ball tremendously. Aaron Boone's been getting a lot of credit for his working under difficult circumstances with a lot of injuries. And as you said, Stanton hasn't really played very much this season at all, and Judge has missed a bunch of time too.
Yeah. Yeah, I was glad they got Boone. You know what I felt about Girardi. I couldn't stand him.
Well, I think you'll see that Sanchez has played a lot better without Girardi.
Yeah.
Girardi just really rode Sanchez, and sort of in the John Farrell and young players. Many of you probably saw the story about John Farrell. Do you know what he's doing now?
What?
Well, he's doing some consulting for a major league team, but he's a full-time lobsterman.
Oh, really?
He's working 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. He bought a lobster boat. I guess his dad was a lobsterman, and that was his lifelong dream to be a lobsterman, which seems like a really
Did
hard...
he marry, what's her name?
Oh, I have no idea. But 12 hours a day, that's really hard work. I think he has 800 traps, and it's really incredible that a guy makes a transition from relatively soft life in baseball to a really hard life as a working guy.
Wow.
So, anyway.
And he loves it though, right?
No, I mean, he really, really does. He said it's his dream job. So, what can you say beyond that? My guess is that for a lot of people, managing the Red Sox or the Yankees is not their dream job because they're tough markets.
Oh, I mean, when you're winning and you win, like Cora won last year, it's great.
Well, look at
But now look at it.
New York with Callaway, and Tim Healy of Newsday came after a game and criticized his use of the bullpen, and
Oh, yeah.
and he walked away and said, "See you tomorrow." Like, not really, because you'll probably be fired, and I'll be here. And then Callaway apparently went after him, and the Mets organization had to apologize. I mean, now I had read somewhere that Healy, asked about the decision 9 times. I don't know if that's right, but at some point when you're struggling as a team and as a manager, you must be getting to the breaking point.
They have one of the best young players in baseball, right?
Yeah, somebody who's getting
28 homers.
Yeah, but the Mets overall are really struggling. We'll be right back. Welcome back. The Celtics draft was full of intrigue and interest and trading down. Danny Ainge did his Bill Belichick impersonation, but didn't come up with nearly as much talent. Some people said the Celtics did their usual thing, drafting a guy who can't shoot as their number 1 draft choice. Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou? As they drafted Romeo Langford from Indiana. Langford played with an injured thumb and had surgery after the season. He said he didn't want to let his teammates down by not playing. And unlike the Celtics last year, he's a guy who really can get to the rim. We'll see about his shooting.
I thought they had an excellent draft.
Well,
When you look at the 4 players they drafted, potentially, that's all you have when you have the 14th pick as your
right,
first
14th pick.
I mean, to me, that was excellent. All 4 players potentially could be very good players in the NBA.
Right, Langford, the sort of comp for him is Avery Bradley when he first came up wasn't really much of a shooter, but ended up being a very serviceable
And he's 6'6", too.
Yeah, he's a big guy. Presumably, he's going to play defense. If you're playing in the Big Ten, you're playing defense. The second pick's a really intriguing guy who had academic offers from Harvard and I think Yale to come and play basketball, but wound up at Tennessee, Grant Williams. So his mother's an engineer who works for NASA. That's not going to help him.
He could have went to Yale and Harvard or something.
Yeah. So Tommy Amaker, the Harvard coach, said he's a really great guy, and they were after him. Stevens' 2 words about him were really smart. Well, the issue is, it's not going to mean anything unless he can play. Some people are calling him the poor man's Draymond Green because he can pass, he's good with the mid-range shots. Whatever the Arizona Training Institute is that everybody goes to, they said he scored in the 96th percentile for strength. So even though he's a bit undersized, he's tough under the boards. And we'll see. I mean, how he adapts to the NBA game is going to be very different than how things went for him in college.
There are a lot of guys in the NBA now that are playing the 4 and the 5 position that are undersized, that are playing really good. Kid from Louisville is having a real good year. I forget his name. He's playing well. He was relentless on the boards, still is in the NBA. Edwards looks like that type of player. But they say he's 6'7". I'm not sure if he's 6'7". But talent-wise, he's more talented than Green. I'm talking about offensively. I don't know about his defense. He was first-team All-American.
Yeah, they said he can cover anybody from 1 to 5, so he's got to have some quickness, even though he's big.
Tennessee was rated #1 in the country the first 10 games, and
Right.
he's their best player. So he's talented. Everybody says he's talented. Is he undersized? But again, Green. What's Green? 6'7". Green's 6'7".
Yeah, he's the same size. Basically, the same size as Green. He's 240. Green was 235. Green's got a little bit bigger hands. I don't think that's a big deal. So
But
we'll
potential.
See. Yeah, potentially pretty could be
And
pretty
how about
good.
the kid from Purdue?
Yeah, the number 3 pick was Carson Edwards, who had 42 points twice in the NCAA tournament. One of the comps for him, for any of you older listeners like Ralph and me, Vinnie Johnson, the microwave, could come off the bench and score from anywhere. And certainly Vinnie Johnson tortured the Celtics on numerous occasions.
But you know how many guys, he's quick. He's real quick. You know how many guys that are really quick and he can shoot the ball.
Oh yeah, he's pretty much.
I mean, he could end up being a tremendous NBA player.
Right. He's not a driver. He's very tenacious defensively. So he's the proverbial 3-and-D guy.
But then the 4th pick is a great defensive player from LSU.
Right. Tremont Waters, who had a game-winning shot in the NCAA tournament. He'll probably spend most of the year for the Maine Red Claws. But overall, they got guys who are no character issues, probably very coachable. They're young players. And then that's going to segue into what the Celtics have done in the past couple of days. Yesterday, NBA free agency opened up, and as expected, Kyrie Irving departed, which is fine. He left for Brooklyn and Rock Nation. So he's looking to leverage his personal fame, Uncle Drew, et cetera, into a long-term career in movies and everything else.
Jay-Z got him to go there. You kidding me?
Right. And joining Kyrie is Kevin Durant, who's going to be out for a year, presumably with the Achilles injury repair.
And he's going to make $56 million a year for the 3 years.
And DeAndre Jordan. So you'll have but again, you got injury-plagued Durant. And Durant, there's no guarantee he's going to come back from the Achilles and be the same guy. I mean, I want him to be successful. On the way out the door, he basically said that one of the reasons he felt he had to leave was a total lack of respect. Earlier in the year, Draymond Green had pretty much called him out and said, "We won championships before you were here." Durant says, "Look, I was a 2-time Finals MVP. I went out injured and tried to give it a go and got hurt, and I get no respect out here." So
They're babies, though. I mean, Green, I remember when they signed him, Green was so happy. He says, "Now we're going to win. There's nothing better than winning, and we have Durant, who's going to make sure we keep winning." He said that when they got him, and he's a baby because he knows Green. Green's the type of player who gets very emotional.
You feel sorry for Golden State because Klay Thompson is hurt and signed a max deal for mega bucks. Durant is gone, and Andre Iguodala is leaving presumably for the Lakers, they're saying. But they also signed up D'Angelo Russell. So
that was a great pickup.
Right. So nobody should feel sorry for the Warriors. They'll be moving into a new arena next year, and they still have plenty of talent with Curry and Green.
Well,
So-
if Thompson comes back halfway through the year and he's normal, I mean, he's okay.
Well, with the ACL nowadays, it's a lot of players it's taking a year and a half. I mean, you can
Really?
come back.
That
You can
long?
come back sooner, but your injury risk is a lot higher. Like Porzingis sat out for almost 2 years, and he signed I don't know if he got a max, but a long-term deal with the Mavericks. So they'll be an interesting team.
Well, if you had to pick a team right now to win it,
Well, a lot of people like the Lakers right now.
Why?
Well, you've got LeBron, you've got Kuzma, you've got Anthony Davis.
and now you got Iguodala.
Yeah,
You're gonna
Iguodala.
get him.
They're going to get a point guard. The question is whether Rondo will go back there.
They're not
Apparently,
going to win it. Golden State's. If I had to bet right now, I'd bet Golden State right now.
and the mystery, of course, is what's Kawhi Leonard, the Finals
He's
MVP,
going to go to the
gonna do?
Clippers. Everybody knows that.
Well,
He's going to the Clippers.
that's okay with me. I mean, I think it'll be more interesting.
Just- The funny thing, though, Ron, is everybody's saying he's going to go to the Lakers. He's going to go. The last player he wants to play with is LeBron. The last player.
Well,
I
it's-
mean, there's no way he's going to go to the. I'd be shocked if he
Well,
goes to the Lakers.
it's like if you said, on what team would you absolutely not want to play if you had any interest in being an offensive player?
the Lakers.
Well, I was thinking Houston because
Oh, Harden.
Harden.
He's a disgrace. How anybody can want to play with him, it's unbelievable. They're never going to win with him because he goes through those games in the playoffs where he goes 2 for 15 from the three-point land. He dominates the ball the whole game. Who wants to play with a guy like that?
Right. I mean, it's just brutal.
Unless you're a role player.
And then, the Celtics were very active in free agency. They got Kemba Walker, who's kind of a poor man's Irving without the headaches. Now, the reality is that Walker hasn't played with the same talent that Irving played with. He's been very productive with the talent he has, but he's also a very ball-centric player. Ran the pick and roll in over 50% of his possessions, and he has a high usage rate. So how's that going to square with Brown and Tatum, who want the ball and want the shots? So we'll see.
Well, Hayward, too.
Yeah, well, Hayward at least will pass. So,
No, I mean, that's what I mean. I mean, I think that Kemba Walker's going to change his game. And you look at him, he's got his money now.
Right, you'd think if you got the money and
He's all set. And he's still going to be very effective, but he'll get more assists, And Hayward will handle the ball in the half court more. He'll get more open shots because Hayward will penetrate and dish. So it'll be a lot easier for him. His percentage is going to go up higher because of that type of offense, and you have all those scorers. But the person I'm really happy about is Cantor.
Yeah, the Celtics
I've
got
loved Cantor for
the
years.
Celtics got Enes Kanter from Portland. He's another free agent. They were able to sign him to a 2-year deal. Second year is a player option. Kanter had a performance efficiency rating of over 20. He's one of the top rebounders in the league. He's a really good offensive player.
Relentless.
Terrific offensive rebounder. And he's not the greatest defender, but they're going to rely on other people to step up there. So it's not like they have nobody. I mean, if you think about a player like Baines, who's a really good player, and
That
could
was a tough
occasionally
loss.
shoot he could really shoot the three. He's a better player than Baines is overall.
Well,
No
he's better
question.
than Horford.
Well, I don't know if he's better than Horford.
No,
but
he's a better offensive player than Horford, not defensive player.
yeah.
Because you look at his stats, he averages close to 15 points a game, playing 25 minutes a game, and over 10 rebounds a game, playing 25 minutes. Look at Horford, plays close to 30 minutes a game, averages less than 15 points a game, and less than 10 rebounds. So when you look at the stats, offensively, Cantor's better than
Right.
Horford, sets better picks than Horford, but doesn't do the pick and roll as good as Horford,
Yeah.
believe it or not, because Horford can do the pick and pop.
Right. Well, the other thing, Horford, they used to like to pick and roll with Horford and then have Horford pitch off the roll to one of the corners to Brown or Tatum. Now, I was looking at there's a website that has the shot selection of every NBA player, so it's really interesting. And if you look at Tatum, he's above average when he shoots to the left of the midline, and he's way below average when he shoots anything on the right side of the court. which is interesting.
That's where most of his shots are.
Well, what's really interesting is when I saw him at practice, he was only taking shots from the left side of the court, which, why would you practice from the left side of the court when you're going to shoot in both sides of the court during the game?
Unless when you look at them, maybe Brown was on the right side more.
Probably.
And he was on the left side. But, that's going to be a key. But the thing is, I'm happy they picked up Cantor. Cantor's relentless on the offensive boards. They haven't had that in years. A guy that's just going to hit the boards. They're going to get more opportunities because of that, more offensive rebounds. He's a better big than Hofford, but not a better all-around player. Hofford's not.
Yeah.
He plays center. Hofford. One of the reasons why Hofford left the Celtics is because he wants to play the 4, and he's got Embiid playing the 5. It's a lot easier for him. Second reason is because he didn't want to play with the babies. Rozier's gone now. Kyrie's gone. But, Tatum and Brown, he was fed up with that whole
Right. It'll be really interesting to see what happens. If you said, who's the most likely player to be traded right now in the Celtics, who would you say?
I would think Brown.
I would say Brown too, because he's in the last year of his contract. So then that means they're going to have to commit $20 million to Brown, which,
Would you trade Brown for Capella?
Yeah.
You would? Because the Celtics wouldn't trade Smart for Capella. And Ainge said no.
Well,
Houston wanted Smart.
I think Brown has a lot of athletic ability and potential. The problem is I don't know what's in his head. To me, you can take a guy like Draymond Green. He does not necessarily fill the stat sheet up every game, but he's an extremely valuable player. I mean, he could be a Hall of Fame player someday, whereas I feel like Brown and Tatum just look at the scorebook and they've judged their value by how much they're putting in the scorebook as opposed to is their contribution going to winning. I mean, Tatum was so disappointing last year in his rebounding and his defending and his shot selection and his shot making.
I'm wondering if Kyrie just got to them and they just said something happened there. But, I'm glad Morris is going to be gone now. Rozier's gone. Kyrie, if all of them is gone. The thing that aggravates me about Ainge, Stevens, why didn't they do anything when Kyrie played in that All-Star game? He should have been benched.
Well,
when he came back, he should have been benched. I would have benched him for 5 games after that.
Yeah, the problem is in the NBA the
That's
problem
it.
and the good thing is that it's a players' league. The players run the league, and it's very hard to have maximum influence. You have Kerr and Popovich who are able to control the players.
They babied him too, though.
I mean, the coaches if you look at the Lakers, you think anybody's going to tell LeBron what to do? LeBron's probably effectively the coach on the Lakers right now. And, Nurse came in, did a great job at Toronto. But, he had Leonard. And Leonard, to his credit, totally carried them. And it'll be interesting if Leonard goes to the Clippers because that makes the West even that much tougher.
But, I like the Celtics team if Tatum and Brown both grow up and come in with the right mentality. If they can do that, now they don't have to watch Rozier dribbling the ball over the place. Morris never making a pass.
Well, the super teams, it means at least 3 stars or more. I mean, you can't say the Celtics are there because they clearly don't have 3 stars.
Well, there's no super team.
Well, I mean, the Lakers have LeBron, Anthony Davis, Russell, so they're pretty
have
strong.
Russell. Oh, yeah, they do have.
They do Russ.
No, they don't have Russell.
Yeah, they signed D'Angelo Russell today.
Not the Lakers.
Yeah, the Lakers.
Golden State did.
I thought it was the Lakers that got
No,
him.
Golden State signed Russell.
Oh, the Lakers have Kuzma, but they're going to get
They're going to get
Iguodala. You're right. And then Philadelphia now has Embiid, Simmons, Horford. Now they lost and Tobias Harris, Tobias Harris is an okay player. I mean, he's a good offensive player, but he got 5 years and $180 million, and I mean, he's not an all-star player.
And they lost Redick and Butler.
Right. So where'd Butler go? I can't remember.
He went to Miami.
Oh, yeah.
And Philly got Richardson, who's pretty good.
Right. So it's really bizarre, the movement. Damian Lillard got a supermax contract. It's like
How do you give him almost over $50 million, whatever that is?
it was like $250 million.
He stunk in the playoffs. Against Golden State, he was terrible.
This is the
How about the Lakers? They got Randall. Randall's good, but I mean, they were expecting
no, you mean the Knicks.
the Knicks. The Knicks
Yeah,
got
the Knicks
Randall.
fans. Stephen A. Smith was on television practically crying. He's saying, I've been waiting my whole life for something, and the Knicks get nothing. And, and
Well, you know what happened with that is they thought they were going to get Kyrie and Durant, and Dolan said he didn't trust Durant because of the injury,
right.
and that screwed everything up because the Knicks would have got both of them. Instead, Brooklyn gets both of them, and then they get rid of. I tell you, though, Carroll left the Nets, and they lose Russell.
But it must be killing people in New York to have Brooklyn as the lead dog, and the Knicks as the also.
They got Porter too, the Knicks, but that's not going to do anything. They'll still end up with one of the worst records.
Yeah. So the Knicks. There's some talk that they're holding out for 2 years when Antetokounmpo will be a free agent. Antetokounmpo is a fabulous player, but I don't think he necessarily. My guess is he doesn't really care that much about the bright lights.
But I think you may see a big move by Ainge. I just think you might see it. I don't know if he can trust Brown and Tatum anymore. And a lot of the league likes Brown and Tatum. I mean, could you see him dealing both of them? But
Yeah.
who would they get? I mean,
I don't know who you'd have to ask for to
I mean, I would deal one of them because I just don't trust either one of them now. Not after last year. Tatum was a disgrace.
Well, the number one attribute of being a great player is making other players around you better.
Yeah, will they grow up with Kyrie gone? Will their true talents come out? I think especially Tatum's all about himself. He wants the big money, and that's what a lot of these young guys are. And when you have him and Brown together, I think that's a bad mix, the two of them.
Well, I think that we both agree that Brown is more likely to be dealt because you could have Walker at the starting point guard, Smart as the 2, and then you'd have Tatum as the 3, Tatum and Hayward as the 3-4.
Well, if they trade Brown for Capella, say they trade Brown for Tatum for I could care less. I love Tatum after his first year, but he was a disaster the second year. Brown came on at the end of the second year, was his third year, but I wouldn't even mind if Tatum went now for Capella. That's how upset I am about Tatum.
Well, can you imagine Tatum in Houston, how much he'll be crying because you'll never see the ball?
I mean, I hope they grow up. If they grow up and really come to play, become real teammates, then maybe, they'll change. But after last year, I mean, Tatum was a disgrace, and Brown for half the year was when he was pouting.
Well, we're done with the Ralph and Ron whining session. We'll be right back. Well, when you're looking for reliability, year in, year out performance, you go back to the New England Patriots. But first, a digression. A little birdie told me that Robert Kraft has a suite at Encore, and there's a passageway that sort of bypasses a room on the right side. It's a massage room. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what somebody told me who had a tour of Encore. So, anyway, we'll see. It's kind of interesting today on Boston Sports Journal. Greg Bedard suggested that not only was Bill Belichick going to be the de facto defensive coordinator this year, but that he also was last year. So it seemed like a cheap shot on Flores, because Flores has gone to the Dolphins, but Flores seemed to be functioning as the defensive coordinator. So I just found that as really interesting observation.
Well, if that's the case, then Flores getting that job, he's got to thank Belichick every day.
Oh, right. And then haven't heard much about Flores at all. Danny Amendola was back in the neighborhood the other day because Julian Edelman, who long-term wants to get into production of some sort of, I don't know if it's TV or movies or whatever, Edelman's got his own documentary film about Julian Edelman out.
Did you see it?
No.
I saw it.
How was it?
It's all right. It's okay.
Did you learn anything? Was there anything insightful?
No, it wasn't. I mean, they showed him when he got injured, and they showed 360 days or whatever, and what he had to do to come back. Then it showed when he got suspended for 4 games. Him and his father didn't talk to him for like 30, 40 days. They showed how him and his father, they showed films of him when he was in Pop Warner, and then in high school, then in college. I mean, you talk about quick. He was just quicker than everybody. But it was, it was pretty good. Then Brady spoke a little, nothing about Belichick. And they had, Strahan spoke about him. They had him. But it was all right.
There was some talk recently, if you had one game to play and you could have a choice between Welker in his prime or Edelman in his prime, who do you want?
I would say Edelman. The reason why I would take Edelman is because Welker was a slot receiver. Edelman you can split him out, and Edelman was tougher.
Well,
but Welker was, you see, it's always the guy that played recently.
Right. Welker had the numbers. He had, I think, over a 4 or 5 year period, he averaged over 100 receptions a year and more yards per catch. Both of them are excellent punt returners. I think the deciding factor in my decision would be Super Bowls 1, Welker 0, Edelman 3.
Well, that pass Welker dropped against the Giants.
Right. I mean, it wasn't an easy catch, but if you want to be...
it was for a pro. It was.
Well, if you want to be considered
Let me ask you a question.
Great,
would you have caught that ball? When you were younger. When you were younger, would you have caught that ball? Of course you would have.
Yeah, I'm not.
And he's a pro.
There. Yeah, he had to make a tough adjustment on the ball thrown behind him.
2 hands were on the ball.
Should have caught the ball.
And it's going to win you the Super Bowl.
No, I get it.
On top of that, you make sure you catch it. There's no excuses for that.
Right. So it just makes for interesting discussion. Now, the big topic of the Patriots remains the lack of productivity last year of the wide receiver core as far as plays, greater than 20, 25 yards. They just couldn't get open down the field. And, we'll see whether they have, which is why the importance of Josh Gordon when he was able to play. The talk is that he's going to be reinstated before the season. Whether
that's the way it looks because of the mental health situation. And they're saying, well, marijuana nowadays.
Right. Yeah, the Players Association is trying to argue that since marijuana is legal in over 30 states, that it really should be considered
he's going to
differently.
And he's been working out with Brady a lot.
Okay.
They've been working out, for what I heard, like for 2 straight weeks they were working out.
Well, if there's a big if he's around, if Harry can be as productive as people think he can be, if Demaryius Thomas is healthy enough to play, the Patriots would have adequate weapons to slightly offset the loss of Gronkowski.
And the kid Harris from Washington, they said had one of the best camps.
Right. Well,
he's
again,
going to be, but I was listening to a sports show and 2 people from Washington area called up back to back, and they said this kid is going to be the big surprise, and he had a real good camp. So. Let's see.
All right. Well, I don't know if he can play special teams because
he's a flanker back. He's a slotman.
All right.
Slot receiver.
And
but
then,
they got potential.
If you said who are the players most likely to be the surprise or not surprise trades, who would the Patriots, or in the last year of their contract, potentially be expendable, or not expendable, but they could get value back for them?
Harmon.
Well,
Chung.
I didn't see him on the list. It said. Jonathan Jones was one.
Oh yeah, but he got playing time last year.
They said Van Noy probably not because
No.
he's a Belichick. He's a Belichick favorite. Tooney's in the last year of his contract. Now, if Mason got $10 million, you'd probably have to pay Tooney $10 million, and the Patriots going to pay 2 linemen.
They
$10
would never
million.
let Tooney go because they had him playing a left tackle too.
Well, they're saying Wynn is going to be ready to play for
They'd never
camp.
let Tooney go this year.
No,
you kidding
I
me?
would-
With Brady with 2 more years to go,
Well, that's why it have to be a surprise deal.
they got a chance to win 2 more Super Bowls. They're the favorites to win it.
And then the other guy, I suppose, potentially would be Burkhead, but I don't think he
No,
fetch you
they'll
anything.
just let him go after a year.
Right.
Yeah, they wouldn't trade him.
The tackle pickup that they had from Denver for a week, Jared Veld here, said this week that the reason he retired was he couldn't contemplate playing another year on his hip. He says his left hip is just a disaster. So, well, one thing about people forget that players don't really walk away from the NFL. They limp away from the NFL. Bob Harney, who is a former orthopedic surgeon in Melrose, great guy, who's also deceased, unfortunately, said that he had done 4 hip replacements in NFL players before the age of 40.
Wow.
So, it's just such a physical beating that players take. So, anyway, it's really sad that they have to take so much. Now, one interesting non-Patriot piece of news is the relative silence of both the Chiefs and the NFL on Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
It seems like the NFL is again trying to take family abuse and sweep it under the carpet.
I don't think in this case, though. They're probably waiting because there's no charges, right?
Well,
Have
I
there
think
been a
it's
charge?
no. I think it's all under invest. Initially, the district attorney had apparently planned to not file charges, and then audio got released. I'm not sure by which station that Hill made threats against the girlfriend, and apparently also the child had acknowledged that his father had broken his arm. So once in the NFL, if you beat someone up and nobody sees it or hears it, then
He'll probably get suspended for 6 games, 6 to 8 games.
I would think. But we'll see how that goes.
Doesn't matter. They're not going to beat the Patriots.
The rumor is that the McCourtys are planning to retire together after the season, which both of them. Devin McCourty's been on the Patriots forever, it seems, and I would imagine Matthew Slater is probably in his last year too. There's some talk that he would become the new character coach because Jack Easterby had left to go to Houston. Easterby and Caserio were linked in some conspiracy theory that Texas was trying to steal Caserio,
Right.
and Caserio's contract apparently runs out in 2020. The Patriots had a clause that he was not allowed to leave for another team this year. So, my understanding is he gets pretty good dough and he's got a really interesting job, and he does everything from player evaluation to coaching on the field. So he's definitely another one of Belichick's right-hand guys, along with Ernie Adams.
Yeah, he'll go next year because that's when his contract's up. But, you look at the Patriots, you would think he'd want to stay for a couple of more years while Brady's here because they're definitely going to be the favorites the next 2 years. They were rated the #1 talent in football, talent-wise, roster-wise. They were #1 and the Rams were #2. But they are. You look at their roster.
Oh, they're loaded right now.
My prediction is they win 14 games.
Well, it's everything in the NFL is about health. So
If they stay healthy, really,
Right.
who's going to beat them?
Right.
With that defense they have now?
if either Brady or Edelman got hurt, that would be catastrophe. We'll see how that
health-wise,
goes.
that's the key.
And we'll talk a little bit about coaching now. The summer so far has been terrible as far as weather, which, in our situation, we don't have indoor practice time. So, it's hard to make any sort of evaluation or teaching. But one of the things that's really important for a young player is to say, what do I have to do to become a productive player? And what is being a productive player going to mean for me? What's my interaction with my teammates? What's my individual offense? And what's my contribution to team offense? It all starts with your ability to get separation one-on-one. So what do you like to work on one-on-one with players to try to get separation?
Oh, different moves, but the problem a lot of players have they'll try to fake you like you're talking about. They fake a jump shot from the outside, and they're so quick with it. They're not faking anybody out. The defense player's not going up on their toes or moving left or right because you've done it so fast. They don't even have a chance to react.
Right.
So you got to make them know.
Right. So Ralph's point is that a great shot fake it looks like a shot not taken. So the best shot fake I've seen in years in the NBA is Kelly Olynyk. He always, he goes up real slow, and you're sure he's going to shoot, and then he's not. He's taking the ball at a hoop. And he grew up as a point guard, even though he ended up 7 feet tall. So that's a key point. I think that it's really important to have a consistent, as one move, you got to be able to catch and shoot in contemporary basketball. And part of that is shot preparation. You see players who are straight up and they don't want to be bent. You get explosion from your ankles, your knees, and loading your hip to help get you up quickly and also improve your range. So if you're embarrassed to have pre-shot preparation because you think you look funny, well, you might not look funny, but you're not going to be a consistent shooter or get range. So if you watch any great shooters, they have flexed ankles, knees, and hips when they receive the ball.
You know, you have a lot of players too. I'm seeing it this year with the high school team. You know, there's confidence is number one. You have to have confidence. But you talk about anticipating and being, understanding what's happening out there, and you can talk about it all day, and a lot of players still don't get it. You know, I see so many players, they don't want to make mistakes. And in summer ball, you have to make, if you don't make mistakes, that means you're not trying. You're too conservative, and that's going to get you nowhere, especially in the summertime. And when you're playing on the team and coaches go and over plays with you, okay, he may want you to do one thing, maybe want you to get the ball and pass or set a pick. But in the summertime, I'm getting on some of the players now, that I think can be really good because they're just too conservative out there. They're afraid of making mistakes. And there's some players I've been on that are really aggressive. And what's going to happen is, and I'm seeing it now, there are 2 players that I know going to be playing 90% or more, 100% of the time in the games now that weren't playing at all last year. And I'm seeing it because every time they get the ball, they're trying to be aggressive, and they're making moves, and they're going through the experiences, and some of the other players aren't. And then you have some other players who just the mental approach, they're constantly, I'm trying to talk to them about, you can't do this all the time. You got to see your teammates. But it's understanding the game, and in the summertime, you got to be aggressive.
Well, 2 things that are really important for young players are to finish around the rim. And you got to be able to finish with either hand from either side of the basket and be as off either foot. So you need to practice that, practice that, practice that. It says, it's layups. Anybody can make layups. Well, anybody can't make layups. If you look at a guy like Rozier, he is not a good finisher around the rim in the NBA game where you have heavy traffic. So a player like Irving, different story, can finish every way imaginable. Harden can finish every way imaginable. The other thing is, if you want to be a good player, you have to be able to make free throws. And free throws have been a struggle for Melrose as long as I can remember. They've been terrific free throw shooters, and they've like Shannon Kerwin, who's, where Shannon's got a job now, a head coaching job at Masco.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's
good.
And Masco's got a lot of talent in their pipeline, and they have a lot of size too. So I expect
that's good.
Her to do really well. But you have to be able to make layups, and you have to be able to make free throws. Now, depending on where you intend to score from, if you're a wing player, you got to have wing scoring moves to your dominant hand and to your non-dominant hand. As Ralph said, you've got to be able to make an up fake. If you're a post player, swing player, you've got to be able to catch the ball back to the basket and reverse pivot and front pivot and be able to get separation with a quick move to either side. And you've got to keep practicing and practicing and practicing. If somebody comes up to you and says, what's your go-to move and counter to that, and you don't know, then you don't have it. So I can say as a young player, I didn't have a complete set of moves that would work under all circumstances. I was a catch and shoot player, a player in transition, not a great ball handler. Tip for young players, this is what Kyrie Irving did to improve his ball handling. You take a basketball and wrap it in a plastic bag. So he put a plastic bag real tight around the basketball, and he said it made it really slippery and hard to handle. But when he worked with that extensively, that improved his handle.
Yeah, but another thing too with coaching high school teams, I mean, there's some incoming freshmen too that have been coming. You know, understand what's in front of you. Understand what's in front of you before you even get the ball. I mean, it's tough to teach that because, I mean, when I played, you know, the reason why I played it wasn't because I wasn't a great athlete. I was a pretty good athlete, not like some of these kids.
Right.
But the thing is, I was always ahead of the person I was playing against. Always thinking ahead of him. I knew what to do, anticipated. But see the floor, the ball's coming to you, pick up the colors, know when you get the ball. Sometimes there's no one down low. You can go baseline on someone quick and burst by them. Sometimes you can fake them. My thing, too, is when I'm telling the girls is get into your shot off the pass. And as you're getting into your shot, you can see your teammates. You can see if they're cutting. And as you're turning into your shot, like Mary Kate 2 games ago, she shot a ball flat-footed. She was open. She got the ball, but she didn't step into her shot. I yelled at her to, you know, you have the shot. She looks, there's no one on her, and she shoots it. Now she's flat-footed instead of the whole rhythm working together. But one other thing I can say, you know, you're talking about this team. We played Belmont 2 games ago. Belmont was one of the top teams in the state last year. They had their whole team there. Just about, I think they had the whole team. And it was a great game. We played great basketball. We competed against them. They won by 12 or 13, Belmont, but it was a really good game. Both teams went after each other. So I'm looking forward to the Wakefield game, even though I knew Wakefield had 4 real young players last year that were going to keep developing. Well, Wakefield, we didn't have Mary Kate. Believe it or not, you look at Mary Kate, who was the point guard. That really hurt us because Mary Kate gets you into your offense. She makes nice, strong passes. She's been playing great defense. But without her, we didn't have that leader. The other players have been playing good, but without her, you could see in that game where, you know, the point guards, they were younger, and just not having that defensive presence and that leader with the ball, getting the ball to different people, we kind of broke down.
Well, I can't tell you how many times Ralph and I have discussed basketball on the way to games, and the hardest thing for young players is to see the game. And the hardest position to develop for young players are point guards, because they're the distributors, they're the leaders, they organize the defense, and they have to make a lot of great decisions. So I always say it's VD and E, vision, decisions, and execution that determine how good you ultimately become as a player and as a team. I've enjoyed being with you tonight. I'm Ron Sen.
And I'm Ralph Labella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.